Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will learn how to create variables conditionally in the data step. This topic is based on Chapter 2, in Handbook of SAS Data Step Programming Book. Creating variables in the data step is an essential and common task in data step programming. If we are creating a variable, and the assigned values to this newly created variable are the same across all the observations, this variable can be easily created by using the assignment statement. However, in most applications, assigned values are often different across the records, and these values are generated depending upon a certain condition. In this situation, a common approach to creating a variable conditionally is to use the if-then statement. When creating a new variable, we tend to simply create the variables, without checking the accuracy of the variables. A proper way to create a variable based on an existing variable should consist of three important steps. 1. Evaluating the existing variable. 2. Creating the new variable. 3. Checking the accuracy of the newly created variable. Using these three steps is especially important when creating variables conditionally, since assigned values for the newly created variables are not the same across the observations. We must make sure that each observation acquires its intended value. We can use the SAS procedures that we learned in Chapter 1 to evaluate the existing variables. The video link on SAS procedures is listed below. For example, proc print will give you a general idea of what the data looks like. Instead of printing the entire dataset, we can use the OBS equals dataset option to print only the first few observations of the dataset. To examine the variable attributes and the total number of observations, we can use proc contents. We can use proc means to evaluate the distribution of numeric variables. Using the n-miss option in proc means is especially useful for examining missing numerical values. To examine the frequency of a categorical variable, we can use proc-freq. We can use the missing or misprint options in proc-freq to check whether a categorical variable contains missing values. Suppose that we would like to create an indicator variable age_high, based on the age variable. We would like to assign a value of 1 to age_high, when age is greater than its median value. Otherwise, age_high is set to 0. To follow the three-step procedure, we need to examine the age variable first. In addition to knowing the median value of age, it is important to know the number of missing and non-missing values for the age variable, because if the age variable is missing for an observation, age_high should be assigned with a missing value as well. All this information can be found from proc means by using the median, n, and n-miss options. The output from proc means shows that the median age is 26. There are 33 non-missing values, and one missing value for age. In the next step, we can create the variable age_high by using the if-then statement. The if-then statement is placed after the set statement, which is used to read the input data. Once the age_high variable is created, the final and most important step is to validate that the age_high is correctly created. To check the accuracy of age_high, we need to make sure that the maximum value for age_high equals 0 is 26. And the minimum value of age, for age_high equals 1 is greater than 26. Program 2.3 uses proc means to examine the minimum and the maximum values of age by each category of age_high. This program also examines the number of missing and non-missing values within each level of age_high by using the n and n-miss options. Based on the output, the age range is correct when age_high equals 1. There is a problem, however, when age_high is set to 0. Since missing value is the smallest number, the missing value for age was set into the group when age_high equals 0. One way to examine the observations that may contain numerical missing values is to check variables with the equal comparison operator. If we want to compare a character variable with a missing value, we need to compare the character variable with a blank space, enclosed in either single or double quotation marks. We can also use the missing function to check whether its argument contains any missing values. The advantage of using the missing function is that we don't need to know whether its argument is character or numeric. If the argument contains a missing value, the missing function will return a value of 1, otherwise, it will return 0. Thus, we can create the age_high variable by excluding observations with missing age observations. In this statement, if-then statement that creates the age_high variable is nested within the then clause of the outer if-then statement. The observations for the age-high variable are assigned with either a 1 or 0, only for observations where age is not missing. Program 2.4 correctly creates the age-high variable. Notice that there are no missing values in both the 0 and 1 strata for age-high. However, the person with the missing age was not shown in the output. To show the missing values that have been excluded from the output, we need to use the missing option in the proc mean statement. The missing option will consider missing values as valid values to create the combinations of class variables. Now, let's re-examine this if-then statement again. In the first statement, the value from the missing function is compared with 0 by using the equal comparison operator. If the comparison is evaluated to be true, then the value for the age-high variable is generated. Alternatively, you can compare the value from the missing function with 1 by adding the not operator. In SAS, any numerical value other than 0, or the missing value is considered true. The missing value and 0 are considered false. Since the missing function returns a numerical value with either 1 for true or 0 for false, it is redundant to compare values from the missing function with 1 explicitly. We can simply write the last statement. In the hearing dataset, the variable preg is coded with 1 for indicating being pregnant and 0 for not being pregnant. Suppose that we would like to assign pregnant women to group A and non-pregnant women to group B. Again, we need to evaluate the preg variable first. Since there are 2 levels for the preg variable, it is better to use proc-freq to check this variable. Based on the result, there are 4 people that have missing values for this variable. Now, we use the if-then statement to generate the group variable. The group variable is assigned with value A or B, only when the preg variable is not missing. Once the group variable is created from the data step, proc-freq returns as a third step, to check if group is correctly created, by examining the frequency in the cross-tabulation of the preg and group variables. A classic logic error often occurs when using the OR operator. For example, if foo equals 10, or 20, always resolves to true, because 20 is treated as a single expression, and evaluated as true. You actually intended to write if foo equals 10, or foo equals 20. This type of error is often difficult to detect, because the syntax is completely correct. Let's see another example. Suppose that we want to create a character variable, ageCat, based on the age variable. We would like to assign ageCat to old, when age is greater than its median, and young when age is less than or equal to the median value. This program seems to work to create this variable. Based on the output, we can see that the value young is truncated to YOU. When creating character variables, SAS will allocate the same number of bytes of storage space, as there are characters in the first value, that it encounters for that variable. In our program, SAS allocates 3 bytes because old was encountered first. To avoid the mistakes caused by truncation, we should use the length statement to define character variables. We can specify 1 or more variables in a length statement. The $sign in the length statement is used to apply character variables. In the length statement, length is the number of bytes that are used for storing variable values. The length statement must be placed before any other reference to the variable, otherwise it won't take effect. Program 2.8 correctly creates the ageCat variable by placing the length statement before the if-then statement. Sometimes it is necessary to execute a group of statements as one unit, which can be accomplished by using the do statement. The statements between the do and end statements are called a do group. We can also nest do groups within do groups. A do group is often used within if-then statements. Suppose that we would like to create 2 variables, preginfo and pregsmoker. Preginfo is assigned to 1, if the preg variable is not missing, and is assigned to 0, if preg is missing. Pregsmoker is assigned to 1, if preg is not missing, and smoke equals current. Pregsmoker is assigned to 0, if preg is not missing, and smoke is not current. Program 2.9 starts with the freq procedure, before creating the variables. Based on the output, we can see that there is only 1 pregnant smoker, and 4 people have missing values for the preg variable. When creating preginfo and pregsmoker, a do group is used to assign preg to 1, and to create the pregsmoker variable, when preg is not missing. In the final step, we use proc_freq again, to verify whether these two variables are created correctly. Based on the output, we can see that both variables are created correctly. Now, let's review what we've learned from this video. We've learned 3 steps of creating a variable, including evaluating the existing variable, creating the new variable, and checking the accuracy of the newly created variable. We also learned how to create variables conditionally, by using the if-then statement. The expression in the if-then statement is evaluated to be either true, or false. In SAS, any numerical value other than 0, or the missing value is considered true, and the missing value, and 0 are considered false. Then we've learned how to use the length statement, to avoid character truncations. Lastly, we've learned how to execute a group of statements, by enclosing them into a do group. In the next video, we will learn multiple if-then statements, the select statement, and modify the if-then statement with the assignment statement. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.